All right, guys, NFL Week 7 is upon us. I'm going to give you all the optimal plays at each position and some defense streamers here for you guys to help you guys get prepared to make sure you make the right educated start and sit decision. Now, when I give you guys the optimal play, sometimes there are some guys that are your starters, like Pat Mahomes, for example, is playing San Fran this week. He's got a tough matchup. Do you sit him? That's a decision you got to make because you're going to know who the optimal matchups are. And it's up to you guys to make the decision, but you're going to be more educated going into NFL Week 7. So optimal players each position, including defensive streamers this week. And I want to just briefly talk a little bit about some news and notes here, kind of where we are into Week 7, what's going on, and what the Conchiefs have been up to. It's very interesting. I'm going to share that with you guys right now. Before I get into this show, guys, if you haven't done it, manscaped.com, go to the site right now. Secure the Lawnmower 4.0. Use code SHOWERLINE20, save yourself 20%. Try the trimmer, guys. Skin-safe technology, waterproof, travel lock, everything you guys need. Beautiful design. Stay groomed, stay fresh. Try the Underwear Boxers 2.0. Try the Body Wash Shampoo. Amazing products, guys. I don't promote stuff if I'm not personally using it. Manscaped.com, SHOWERLINE20 upon checkout. Go treat yourself. Pause the video. Go treat yourself right now. Try the lawnmower, but I recommend the Body Wash Shampoo. Get on a subscription service so you guys are constantly getting them every, whatever you're done with them, every 2 months or whatever it is, all right? Manscaped.com, SHOWERLINE20. Go do that right now. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys click subscribe. And if you want to join my community, get direct access, exclusive videos, amazing community, join the Patreon group, patreon.com/FF Counselor. Join the community. I've linked it below, the Fantasy Front Lines, all right? We go year-round. All right, let's dive into the optimal plays at each position, defensive streamers. But I also want to talk about a little bit of news here that's going on. It just seems like I got to talk about this. Everybody's talking about Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker and Alec Pierce right now. Guys that I told you to stash, okay? Also, Dameon Pierce. And the funny thing is, I see headlines saying, Kenneth Walker, and I put this in my story mode. If you're not following Instagram, make sure you're following Instagram, Fantasy Football Counselor, on IG, #1 Instagram page for fantasy and sports for that matter coming up. We keep growing. It's like they said, Kenneth Walker is the guy we said he'd be or something along that line, right? Or who we thought he'd be. You didn't think anything. You didn't think Kenneth Walker was going to be anything because he was ranked like 70th on the Conchiefs' rankings. You didn't talk about him. You all said draft Penny. You didn't tell us to draft Walker. Well, I was telling you guys draft Kenneth Walker round 5. Penny sucks. I kept saying this. Years to wow us, we're not wowed. Injury history, 5 touchdowns the past 2 seasons. First 3 seasons of his career, like 5 total rushing touchdowns. He sucks. And yet now everyone's saying, oh, Kenneth Walker. Everyone's saying Breece Hall, right? They all told you Michael Carter's starting. They were telling you what the beat writers, everyone's saying, Michael Carter's a starter. I'm like, yeah, but they wouldn't move up to grab Breece Hall, the #1 top running back prospect in this draft. So you take a look at everything, and now it's like it's finally unveiling. The curtain's it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? You can see the man behind the curtain or the sheep behind the curtain, right? It's like now you see the truth that it's been BS the whole time. They just give you copy cookie cutter rankings, and as soon as these guys break out, it's like, bam, let's talk about them, right? And some people in my comments, the haters particularly, say, oh, Joe, all you do is brag. It's not about bragging, guys. It's about making you aware that the Conchiefs are lying to you. Okay, guys, this is very important. So, again, this is just an example. Alec Pierce, no one was talking about. He was ranked 101 amongst wide receivers. Breece Hall was ranked over 20th, right? They had guys like DeAndre Swift ahead of him, guys that sucked ahead of him, right? Antonio Gibson ahead of him. And I was telling you, Breece Hall, don't waste your time on guys that suck. Now it's unveiling. Kenneth Walker, right? They had Rashad Penny. They all said Rashad Penny. Now it's all unveiling. It's just an amazing thing to watch. And I'm getting DMs all the time from positive people saying, wow, you nailed it. Thank you. I'm 5-0. I'm 6-1. I'm 6-0, whatever. 5-1. I'm crushing my leagues. Amazing stuff, guys. Going into Week 7, I'm going to help you guys get prepared. All right, guys? And if you want these exclusive videos, more inside information, patreon.com/FF Counselor. All right? Drop a comment below. Let me know if you got Kenneth Walker. If you're listening to this channel, love to get your feedback. All right? Starting off the quarterback position, let's rip into this. Davis Mills, believe it or not, coming off a bye week, got a good matchup, coming off a 6-point week the week before. If you're listening in the car, I'm going to rip through the optimal plays here. If you're on YouTube, you're going to have a little bit of a visual here. Davis Mills, again, good matchup. Do I trust him? If you have a better option, go with that. Dak Prescott making a return possibly this week. Good matchup. Going into a good return here with Detroit. Coming back, and it's a good matchup, okay? Jimmy Garoppolo, easy matchup as well versus KC. Kenny Pickett, coming off concussion protocol. I heard he's supposed to be playing Sunday versus Miami, good matchup. Arguably one of the best matchups versus position. Matt Ryan coming off a monster week, 30-plus points last week. In my particular league, he got some bonuses, 38 points. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. 30 points last week. Matt Ryan versus Tennessee, good matchup. Jacoby Brissett, Tua should be back. Make sure you're monitoring that situation. He's playing Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers, who's been mediocre at best, can't seem to get into a groove with his receivers. Maybe, a lot of people asking, do I still stash Christian Watson? I'm going to say yes, but again, it's just so uncertain with the Packers. Just Rodgers just not trusting wide receivers at all, and he just keeps spreading the ball around. Robert Tonyan, another guy that can ships are riding now, coming off a big week, a guy that I told you, wait on tight end, get Tonyan. He should get some work. Finally got integrated really well last week. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert coming off a mediocre dud 9-point week. Should be a bounce back versus Seattle. And Andy Dalton, believe it or not, if he's starting, which I think he is versus Arizona, good matchup, but I don't really trust him. Now, again, if the question comes to you and you say, okay, well, I've got Pat Mahomes, Joe, and my backup is, Kenny Pickett, who's got an easy match, or Dak Prescott, or Davis Mills, who got arguably the easiest matchup versus position versus Vegas. Do I start Davis Mills or do I start Pat Mahomes? You probably want to start Pat Mahomes, all right? So, again, Pat Mahomes, sixth hardest matchup versus position versus San Fran, which, again, we're going to do the sits episode tomorrow. We're going to talk about this, but Pat Mahomes versus San Fran, tough matchup, and you're tempted, right, to start your backup. Again, it depends on who your backup is, but make an educated decision and typically start your starters for the most part. All right. Again, that's an example. Moving on to the running back position. Let's talk about some optimal plays. And if your guy has been performing consistently, even though he's got a tough matchup, all right, you want, let me give you an example. Breece Hall, 9th hardest versus position versus Denver. I'm not sitting Breece Hall. Dameon Pierce, mid-range matchup, 13th hardest versus position. I'm not sitting Dameon Pierce. Okay, does that make sense, right? Use some common sense, but I'm telling you guys the guys that have optimal matchups. I'm going to go through it real quick. Josh Jacobs, Zeke Elliott coming off good weeks last time they played. Zeke Elliott coming off a 16-point week. Seems like he's kind of back. He's got a good matchup versus Detroit. Jacobs versus Houston, decent matchup. Kenneth Walker breaking out a couple weeks ago. Had a good week last week, getting all the touches, getting all the work. Easy matchup versus the Chargers, right? Uncle Lenny, running hard, running strong, good matchup. Definitely want to start him. Austin Eckler, who's been absolutely red hot, a guy I was wrong on. I mean, is he gonna finish the season? Maybe, possibly. But Austin Eckler, he's like a bowling ball. I mean, absolutely crushing it. Good matchup versus Seattle this week. Derrick Henry, the king, my guy, good matchup, very happy. Saquon Barkley, another one of my guys, good matchup. So the guys that I like, the Walkers, the Henrys, the Saquons, guys that I have in 16-rounders have, great matchups. Other good matchups here versus position you may want to consider. Brian Robinson, again, he's just starting to get integrated. Looks like he's going to be the guy. Easy matchup versus Green Bay. Aaron Jones coming off a dud week. He's had a couple dud weeks. I warned you against Aaron Jones because he was in a committee with Dylan, who was actually the RB1 last year. And again, the mainstream didn't tell you this, but Aaron Jones actually, as predicted, has been kind of busting this year, which I kind of told you. Najee Harris, a guy I was kind of wrong on, but again, that's why I say go robust RB. It's been disappointing, but in Najee's defense, he had apparently a steel plate in his shoe and all this stuff, and the quarterback changes. He had some tough matchups. Buffalo a couple weeks ago, got a mid-range matchup versus Miami. So Najee, I would probably sell high on an upside week, or again, probably hold. Again, running backs are very hard to come by. Moving on to the wide receiver position, give you guys some optimal plays here. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce. The guys have been pretty solid moving forward here. Alec Pierce has been consistent the past 3 weeks. Good matchup versus Tennessee. That's good news. Tyreek Hill has been hot. Well, he was last week, 33 points. Good matchup versus Pittsburgh. Alan Lazard, Romeo Dobbs. Good matchup this week versus Washington. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk coming off the game of his life. People have been talking, the Kachusas have been talking about Ayuk for years. Finally has a good game. Now they're riding him, saying, hey, we were right. One big game. I'm not sold still, but Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, a good matchup versus position. Amari Cooper, love the consistency, been pretty solid, got a good matchup versus Baltimore. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, good matchup. Jamar Chase finally coming out party, had a good week. Jamar Chase, good matchup versus position versus Atlanta. Couple guys you also want to consider if you have them. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens. But again, you're in a situation where who is the wide receiver one? Claypool was last week. Pickens, the young guy, could be connecting with Pickett. Again, if Pickett starts, the concussion should be good to go, though. There's a lot of question marks here, guys. So it's just 3 guys I don't have on my roster because I'm not sure who the one is. It's going to be variant for week to week as I predicted. And again, CeeDee Lamb, great matchup versus position. Same with Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers. So those are your optimal plays. An honorable mention here, maybe Nico Collins. If you want to play some DFS, Nico Collins could be solid. Consistent 2 weeks with 11 points. The past 2 weeks they played, coming off a bye week. Seems to be gelling really well with Davis Mills, and he's in for a good matchup. Davis Mills is, and Nico, decent mid-range matchup versus position, all right? So make smart decisions. Look at consistency, guys. Who on the roster is doing well, who's doing bad. Make educated decisions. With tight end, at this point, you want to start your most consistent tight end. Guys that have been performing, tight ends are hard to come by. But the guys that have good matchups, as you can see here, Gerald Everett coming off a mediocre 8-point week. Brevin Jordan, I think he was banged up, but it should be good to go. Make sure you monitor the tight end situation there with Houston. I don't have the up-to-date report. Check, just Google Brevin Jordan injury. You should be able to get up-to-date there. But he does have an easy matchup there. Juwan Johnson, I don't know if I really trust him, but easy matchup. Hayden Hurst coming off a mediocre week. He did have a tougher matchup last week. 5 points last week, but Hayden Hurst has been relatively consistent. Cincy versus Atlanta. Again, easy matchup for Hayden Hurst. Jeff Swam, don't really trust him, but easy matchup. Dalton Schultz, check him out. Should be coming back. If he does, him and that Dak Prescott the connection should be really solid. But good matchup for Dallas tight ends. Cole Kmet, Mo Alley-Cox, Ian Thomas, George Kittle, the top tight ends on their team. Again, if you've got a secondary tight end, all those guys have good matchups. From Chicago to Indy to Carolina to San Fran, all good matchups versus position. A lot of people ask about Pat Freiermuth. He's been banged up. Very, very hard to trust. And again, tons of options there in Pittsburgh. Be cautious with Pat Freiermuth. Darren Waller has been banged up. Big time disappointment as I predicted, because he was coming off as like the 4th tight end, based on position, and they had Devontae Adams coming off as the tight end 1. Wide receiver 1. It's like, make a decision here. Who is the wide receiver 1? Is it Adams? Is it Waller? I just avoided both situations. And big questions about, Kyle Pitts and Njoku, both mid-range matchups this week. Kyle Pitts coming off his first receiving touchdown, 11 points last week. Will that continue? That's a big question mark, all right? If he does have a monster game, you may want to consider trading high, because I just don't see the consistency of Kyle Pitts this season. Let's talk about some defensive streamers here as well. Again, make smart decisions when you guys are doing starts and sits. If you want direct access, patreon.com/FF Counselor, link below. All right, some good defenses to stream based on matchup. Titans versus Indy, but again, Indy is known to put up some points. They did last week, but understand, guys, these layouts here, these optimal matchups are predicated on the entire season, right? So maybe Indy is actually heating up, and Tennessee might have it in tough, so be aware of that. Take that precaution, right? Patriots versus Chicago. Chicago, we know them, inconsistent this year. Patriots, that's a good defensive stream if they're available. Buccaneers versus Carolina, been a disaster. Lost Robbie Anderson. The coaches are fighting. I don't know if I trust Carolina. So Buccaneers, pretty tough defense when they want to be. Good matchup versus Carolina. May not be available in your league to stream, though. Green Bay versus Washington could be a good streamer. Cardinals, if they're available, could be a streamer versus New Orleans. Jets versus Denver. Denver's been super inconsistent. If Jets are available in your league, might be a good streamer. Arguably one of the best matchups on paper versus, as a defense. Commanders versus Green Bay. We know Rodgers has been inconsistent. Dolphins versus Pittsburgh. We know Pittsburgh, new quarterback, young quarterback, some inconsistencies there. So Dolphins as well. And maybe even the Chiefs and the Falcons as defensive streamers. All right, guys? Make sure you guys are subscribed. NFL Week 7 is here. I can't believe it. We're Week 7. It is just flying by. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Join the free, not the free community. We have one on Discord. I've linked that below as well. But again, Patreon for direct access, guys. Patreon.com/FF Counselor and Manscaped.com. Go get the Lawnmower 4.0. Amazing product. Shower line 20 upon checkout. All right. Drop your questions below. I'll try to help out as many people as I can on YouTube here. Subscribe. I'm out.